What happens when a month dedicated to understanding suddenly encounters a crossroads? This week contains some of June's most important astrology. We begin with a reflective last quarter moon in Pisces, move through a powerful Venus Jupiter conjunction in Cancer, encounter a collective turning point as Uranus in Gemini squares the true node in Pisces, and we culminate with a Gemini New Moon that may plant seeds for conversations, connections, and possibility that continue to unfold long after the month ends. If the first week of June was about processing recent changes, this week asks what we're going to do with what we've learned. Welcome to Oness Astrology. Hello, and if you're back, thank you for joining me again. My name is Mariana, if you're new. Each week, I'm here to explore the unfolding story of the cosmos through a grounded, practical, and meaningful lens that is much more for the collective than what modern astrology has kind of become as far as personality and prediction goes. So I really enjoy it. It helps me to orient myself with the cosmic energy, and I'd love to hear what you think if you like this type of astrology. I'd say it's mine, but it's really just kind of a blend of both ancient and modern perspectives. So let me know what you think. This forecast is going to cover today, Monday, June 8th, all the way through to Sunday, June 14th. And this is a week that's going to act as a bridge between probably reflection and new beginnings. June's larger theme is from understanding to expression. And this week represents the moment where understanding starts becoming possibility. We move from the last quarter moon in Pisces to a series of powerful relationship, communication, and evolutionary transits before ultimately arriving at the Gemini New Moon on Sunday. So there's a strong sense that old perspectives are reaching their limits while new pathways will begin emerging on the horizon. Let's begin where the week begins. Today, Monday, June 8th, we have our last quarter moon in Pisces. This is happening about midway, and it's kind of going to represent, I think, release, revision, and adjustment for us. Sorry, I have a footage. These lunations are the final phase of the lunar cycle, and they often can invite us to evaluate what is working, what is not working, and what needs to be carried forward into the next chapter, for real. Pisces, though, is going to add a bit of a softer quality to this process. So it's going to be less about making hard decisions and more about allowing clarity to emerge naturally. Sometimes answers arrive when we stop forcing them. Some realizations appear only after we've stepped away from a problem long enough to gain that perspective. If June has already presented questions you cannot immediately answer, this moon suggests patience. The purpose of today may not actually be resolution. It may simply be creating some space. Now, as we move into tomorrow, June 9th, we have a pretty lucky transit. Some people I know are saying this is the luckiest transit or aspect of the year. And that is we have Venus meeting up with Jupiter in Cancer. They are both kind of coming up on the final part of their time in Cancer. Of course, they're moving at different speeds. But I think that tomorrow this will bring probably some of the most supportive alignments of at least the month. Venus and Jupiter meeting in Cancer are combining two traditionally benefic planets within a sign that's concerned with care, belonging, family, nourishment, and emotional security. This transit expands our capacity for connection. Relationships may feel warmer, conversations may feel more sincere. There could be a greater willingness to offer support as well as receive it in return. At its best, I think this conjunction is really here to remind us that growth rarely happens in isolation. So whether that is through friendship, community, partnership, family, really the people around us are often the ones who help to reveal who we're becoming, right? They, through that mirroring and sometimes even through triggering, help us to grow. They help to keep us accountable. So I encourage you tomorrow on Tuesday the 9th to pay attention to those natural moments of generosity and connection and nourishment. They really do matter more than they may initially appear to. Okay, so moving right into Wednesday, June 10th, we then see Mercury squaring Saturn, and this brings a very different energy. It's going to shift the tone. Mercury in Cancer still wants to communicate emotionally and personally. However, Saturn in Aries is asking for responsibility, maturity, and accountability. So when these two planets form a square, communication could feel slower, more serious, and more concentrated than usual. This transit can really expose weaknesses in plans, assumptions, or conversations. Now, while that might feel frustrating, especially in the moment, keep in mind that Saturn often provides valuable information, if not always, right? If we're not getting something valuable out of Saturn, it's because we're not listening. He does not mess around. So if something starts to feel difficult to communicate about halfway through the week, ask yourself why. If a plan encounters resistance, consider whether additional structure could be needed. Saturn's purpose is not to stop progress. Its purpose is to ensure that the progress we're making can actually last. And that's very different. Okay? Now, if you are enjoying this week's forecast so far and you want the full story of June's astrology, including Chiron entering Taurus, Mercury retrograding Cancer, the Capricorn full moon, and Jupiter's entrance into Leo before the end of the month, you can read the complete June forecast on Onescence. It's onescence.com, or you can also find the full June forecast here on this YouTube channel, Ones Wellbeing. Now, if these weekly forecasts are helpful and you're finding this information useful, I would love if you would like, subscribe, and share the channel. This is something that I'm really passionate about sharing. It has helped me a lot in my life, and I love to bless and spread the love. So if you can help me do that, I would appreciate it greatly. It really does help more people discover this work, and it supports the growth of the Ones astrology community, Ones Wellbeing, and everything else that I'm working on for the benefit of the new earth and all of our leaders, our true leaders. All right, I'm going to jump right back in. On Thursday, June 11th, we have another transition point, right? So this is another major transit. There's no specific aspect, right? We're just kind of letting things settle in, but it's in preparation for an amping up over the weekend. When we see Uranus, who is pretty much still new in Gemini, squaring the true node. Now, this is Friday, June 12th. So we've got that little breather on Thursday, and then we're getting another potential tension point. So take that time Thursday, breathe in, let things integrate, and prepare for another opportunity to reconsider, to look at things maybe from a different perspective. This one is going to be more around themes of disruption, specifically with regards to innovation, though. Awakening, change, all of those things can be quite disruptive. And the true node is going to be symbolizing collective development and future growth. When these 2 points form a square, the tension emerges between where we're headed and how we think we'll get there. So This aspect occurring shortly after Uranus entered Gemini could make it one of the first major activations of this new transit that we'll be experiencing for the next 7 years. And yeah, communication systems are going to be changing. Technology is changing. Information ecosystems are changing. Our relationship with learning, community, and knowledge itself is changing. And the challenge of this transit is not about simply how do we adapt to change. The challenge that's being offered here is how do we remain conscious enough to participate in the change intentionally? Yeah. So this could very much be an evolutionary pressure point. The future is asking questions of us, and we may not yet have all the answers. That's okay. That's what all these different energies serve, is shaking things up when they need to be shook and helping things flow when they need to go, right? And so we're mixing it up coming into the weekend hot. On Saturday the 13th, we will see another square. So there's a lot of squares. Be gentle with yourself, especially as we are building towards that new moon into the weekend. This one is Venus in Cancer squaring Chiron, who is at the very final degrees of Aries. And then Venus is going to move into Leo as well that day. So this is kind of happening in 2 chapters. The first is Venus squaring Chiron. Relationships, self-worth, vulnerability, and emotional sensitivity could really come into focus early on Saturday. That means old wounds could be surfacing. And it's not necessarily because anything is wrong. It's because healing often begins when previously hidden material becomes visible. Then later that day, so very quickly after this maybe cathartic emotional healing opportunity, we have Venus entering Leo. The atmosphere is going to become noticeably brighter. Leo encourages confidence, creativity, playfulness, authentic expression, right? So after some months of introspection and emotional processing, Venus in Leo is going to begin reminding us that joy is also a part of healing. And how fun is that? Yes, there's wisdom in seriousness, but there is also wisdom in delight. Of course, this is all leading up to Sunday, June 14th, when we have our Gemini New Moon. Now, the new moon, even though this is a conclusion to the week, it's representing beginnings. Gemini is governing communication, learning, curiosity, networking, and perspectives. And that's where Uranus just moved into and has kind of activated a lot of these themes as well with its own innovation and disruptive character. So as this new moon arrives on Sunday, right, like 2 days after Uranus squared the true node, it's making it feel especially connected to the emerging possibilities and future directions that have been stirred up with all of this. New conversations could begin. New interests might appear. New friendships, collaboration, educational opportunities. You know, Gemini loves that. Communication pathways. However, keep in mind, Gemini isn't looking for certainty. Gemini is curious. It wants us to explore. It wants to adventure. It wants to ask questions for the question's sake because it's fun in the not knowing, especially when that is matched by discovery. The novelty has a type of beckoning and playfulness to it, right? So Gemini really embodies a lot of that energy. So please keep in mind as this new moon approaches, you do not need to know exactly where every path leads. None of us do. We all simply need to remain open enough to keep exploring. Keep going on those adventures. If you're curious, I have developed a kind of interesting and unique tool that helps you to orient yourself to the energy of the cosmos from wherever you are on Earth. So I kind of think that maybe astrology would have eventually adapted to this kind of model if it had not been detached from science all those millennia ago. Actually, it was just hundreds of years ago. It's called the Onescent Dial. It will weight things accordingly to where you are in the world, because this ancient astrology is more about light and dark balance, which is governed by the sun and the moon and how we experience that. So if you are an astrology nerd, if you want to kind of see things from a different perspective, if you want to know what energies you're picking up on specifically, or maybe what other people in your life are picking up on specifically, check it out. It's at dial.onescence.com. That's DAIL.onescence.com. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite you, as you move through this week, to consider the following reflection, okay? Where am I being asked to replace certainty with curiosity? That's the question this week. Where am I being asked to replace certainty with curiosity? Notice the places where old assumptions feel too small for what's emerging for you. Pay attention to conversations, introductions, questions, and even unexpected opportunities. You never know. Especially as we approach the Gemini New Moon on Sunday, I think the cosmos is suggesting to us all that the next chapter may actually begin with the simple exchange of ideas and that playful curiosity that is in and of itself such a delightful motivator of change and such a delightful way to engage with this inevitability of life. This week, it marks a turning point, especially within June's larger story. The first week helped us to process the recent changes that we've had this spring. This week is beginning to reveal where those changes may actually lead. As we start this week with the last quarter moon in Pisces, we are being asked to release anything that's still holding us back. Then tomorrow, Jupiter and Venus in Cancer is coming through to help highlight the importance of connection in growth, in change, and the support that can bring. Then, of course, we have those series of squares, especially as Uranus and the true node challenge us to participate consciously in the rapidly changing world, starting off those other squares in the middle of the week, right after we get this ushy-gushy loving energy from Jupiter in Cancer with Venus. And it's all leading up to the Gemini New Moon, planting these seeds for conversations and possibilities that may really continue unfolding not only throughout the rest of the year, but again, through that entire Uranus cycle in Gemini. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, if this forecast resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also find the full forecast on Onescence, and you can see the full monthly episode on the channel here at Oness Wellbeing. Until next time, I really hope that you remain curious to explore these new perspectives, that you find yourself grounded enough to integrate what you're discovering, and also courageous enough to express what is becoming true for you. And please, if you'd like, share that with me. Drop one of those heart on fire emojis, because that's the vibes I'm getting this week. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate you. Take care. Blessed be. I will see you next week.